Hello, we had some mic difficulties there. It seems I've been doing my live with the mute button on the entire time. Okay, so we are going to recap what it is that I was saying. So now you can actually hear what I'm saying. Today, we are going to focus on writing a powerful problem statement. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Free Grant Education Fridays. I am Crystal Petry, a grant writer and strategist for over 15 years. I have been helping nonprofits, for profits, and entrepreneurs secure funding across federal, state, and local and private organizations. Over the last 2 weeks, we've talked about why grants get rejected and how funders actually think. Today, we are getting into one of the most important parts of your grant proposal, and that's your problem statement. Because if your problem statement is weak, most likely your funding options will be weak as well. But if your problem statement is strong, most likely your funding options will be strong as well. So let's get into it. Over the next few minutes, I am going to walk you through what makes a problem statement fundable, the three key elements you must include, and give you a real example of how this changed a funding outcome. When you're writing your problem statement, this is where proposals, most of them, are won or lost. Your problem statement must be grounded in local data. It cannot be national statistics. It needs to be local. Funders want to know what is going on in your community, what is going on in your city. Now, I am going to give you some examples of a strong problem statement as well as examples of a weak problem statement. Now, remember, let me just make sure that everyone understands what a problem statement is. Okay? A problem statement is the issue that you are wanting to fix in your community. Again, a problem statement is the issue that you are wanting to fix in your community. Now, let me get back here. So, here is an example of a weak problem statement. Youth violence is a growing issue across the country. That's too broad. It's very general, it's very generic. And I would assume that most people know that youth violence is increasing. Okay? Strong problem statement. This is what a strong problem statement sounds like and what a strong problem statement feels like. And this is just an example. I made up this town, I made up these numbers, okay? In Harris County, youth violence has increased by 18% over the last 3 years, with the highest rates concentrated in a specific neighborhood. Do you hear the difference? Let me say it again. The weak problem statement. Youth violence is a growing issue across the country. Very broad, very generic. A strong problem statement. In Harris County, youth violence has increased by 18% over the last 3 years, with the highest concentration rate in a specific neighborhood. You hear the difference in the strong problem statement. You have the location, you have the numbers, you have the issue, you even have the trend, because it says over the last 3 years, it's increased over 18%. So most likely you can assume that that trend is going to continue to increase unless someone or something changes and does something about it. In this strong problem statement, it's specific, it's relevant, it's real. Again, in the strong problem statement, it's specific, it's relevant, it's real. Now, why does this matter? It matters because funders are funding impact in a specific area. If your data is not localized, it feels disconnected. And when you are writing a problem statement, you want your funder to feel connected to your community. You want the funder to feel connected to that problem. You want them to feel a sense of accountability and responsibility to fix whatever is going on. When you are writing your problem statement, your strong problem statement, you use census data, local government reports, school district data, police or public health reports. Local data builds credibility. Let me repeat that. When you write your problem statement, you should be using census data, local government reports, local school district data, local police and local public health reports. Local data builds credibility. Urgency, urgency, urgency. When you write your problem statement, it must feel urgent, not just important, but urgent also. Here is another example of a weak problem statement that's lacking urgency. This is an ongoing issue. Does that make you want to fund a project? If you had the capabilities and the finances, would that sentence make you want to fund that project? This is an ongoing issue. I know for me, it does not make me want to fund that problem. That problem statement sounds like whatever the issue is, it can wait. It's not important. It's not urgent. Here is a strong problem statement that exudes urgency. Over the past 12 months, youth-related incidents have increased by 25%, with limited intervention programs available to address the rise. Let me say that again. You hear the urgency, you hear the importance, you hear the local data. Remember, that's something you need to include in a strong problem statement. Here it is again. Over the past 12 months, youth-related incidents have increased by 25%, with limited intervention programs available to address this rise. That definitely makes you feel like something needs to be done and something needs to be done now. Now, the funder is thinking something has got to be done. Someone has got to step in, and that someone is me. That's what the funder is thinking, and that is what you want the funder to think. Urgency in a strong problem statement comes from recent local data, increasing trends, gaps in services, consequences of inaction. All of those things you can communicate very well within your strong problem statement. And you need all of them to create a strong problem statement. You can't do two and leave out the others, or do one and leave out the others. You need to include all of them: local recent data, increase in trends, gaps in services, consequences in inaction. All of those make your problem statement feel strong, feel important, and feel urgent. What you want your funder to feel: if we don't fund this, this problem continues or worsens. That's what you want your funder to feel. That's what you want your funder to think. When they feel that, when they think, if we don't fund this issue, this problem continues or gets worse. When they feel that, when they think that, that's what moves decisions. That's what gets your problem statement and your organization funded. Who is impacted? Your problem statement must clearly answer who is being affected, not the community. That's very weak. It's broad, it's general. Who is being impacted? How many people? What population? What demographic? You need to be able to list all of those things so that the funder will know exactly who is being affected by the problem and who they will help by funding your grant proposal. Here is an example of a weak who is impacted problem statement. Families in our area are struggling. Again, I ask you, if you are in a position to fund an organization, does that statement make you want to fund that problem statement? Families in our area are struggling. I know for me, it does not. Now, listen to an example of a strong problem statement that clearly states who is impacted. Over 2,500 low income families lack access to consistent after school programming, increasing the risk of youth involvement in violent activity. In this problem statement, we know who, we know how many, and we know what the impact is. Let me read that again. A weak problem statement that does not show who is impacted sounds like this: families in our area are struggling. A strong problem statement that includes who is impacted sounds like this: over 2,500 low income families lack access to consistent after school programming, increasing the risk of youth involvement in violent activities. Now we know the who, the how many, and what the impact is. Why this matters. It's very, very important when you are writing your problem statement. Funders are not funding abstract problems. They are not funding general problems. They are not funding broad problems. They are funding people. Make it clear who these people are and where they are. How many people is there? Be specific with your information. Here is an example of problem statements and how they help. A youth violence prevention organization applied for funding and was denied, right? The problem was strong, the mission was clear, but their problem statement general, lacking strong data, not clearly urgent. And you would think that people are jumping and excited to fund an organization that's helping prevent youth violence. But if your problem statement is general and broad, they are not funding that. If your problem statement is lacking strong data, the odds of you getting funding decrease. If your problem statement does not clearly show urgency, the odds of you getting that funding decrease. When we revisited their approach, we strengthened their local statistics, strengthened and included recent data trends, and was very specific on the population impacted. Now, listen to this: same organization, same program, different problem statement. And the next time they applied, they received a $150,000 award. That's the difference. Funders don't just fund good programs, they fund clearly defined problems and people. I want you to think about these next questions as you are writing your problem statement or getting ready to write your problem statement, whatever stage you are in. Can you clearly quantify your problem? Can you put a number to it? Are you using current local data? And if you are using that, where are you getting that data from? Make sure that your current local data is from a reputable source, a reputable company. Are you telling a story with your data or just listing statistics? Because data alone is not enough. You have to make the funder connect with the problem. You have to make them feel a sense of urgency, a sense of importance, a sense of, I have to do something about this. You can accomplish all of those things with your problem statement. As we get ready to wrap up, just want to remind you to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you will know whenever I am on live giving these free Friday grant education trainings that I am just falling in love with. And again, at the beginning of the live, the mute button was on. So if you stuck with me through that, thank you so much for sticking with me and writing it out with me until I figured out that the mute button was on and you couldn't hear anything that I said. But anyways, subscribe to my YouTube channel and get more information about writing your grants, about writing your strong problem statement. Now, because if you want to write a grant, a competitive grant, if this free Education Friday has you thinking differently about your grant strategy and writing grants, that is my goal. Because once your problem statement is strong, everything else is easier to build from there. And if you want to go deeper, actually writing and structuring a full grant step by step for your organization, on May 7th, I am hosting a virtual grant writing boot camp where we will walk through a real grant together. It is titled Funding Success Blueprint: Plan, Write, and Win Grants Like a Pro. Again, that is going to be Thursday, May the 7th, and you can sign up on my website, etryllc.com and sign up for that virtual grant workshop hosted by myself. From problem statement to full structure, I'll share more details on how to write a competitive grant next Friday. So make sure you are tuned in. Make sure you have your pen and paper to take notes. And if you have questions, I am more than happy to answer the questions during this live. Again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sticking with me. And I will see you next Friday. Bye, everyone.